Welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show, hosted by gospel music industry veteran, recording artist, songwriter, producer, radio announcer, and actor, Carl B. Phillips. Join Carl as he talks with gospel recording artists, producers, songwriters, pastors, and other creatives about music, ministry, and life. Get ready for another great conversation on the Carl B. Phillips Show.
This week's guest on the Carl B. Phillips Show, gospel recording artist, Pearl McCullough. Welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show. I am Carl B. Phillips' Uncle Carl. Today's guest is a Chicago native, currently residing in Detroit, Michigan. She's an ordained minister, a licensed professional counselor, a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, songwriter, musician, and recording artist. She has sung with Milton, Brunson's Thompson community singers, and she's currently a member of the Whitfield Company. Please help me welcome Pearl McCullough. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I've read a whole lot of stuff about you.
I know. I was just listening to it. I'm like, oh my God. It's one thing when you write stuff out, but when you actually hear it, it becomes something totally different.
Yeah, but you've lived a good life, so you got a life that people can write about and talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yes.
As I stated, I'm going to ask a random question. First random question. You've lived in Chicago and Detroit. Which city has the coldest winters, Chicago or Detroit?
Oh my goodness. You know, they run neck and neck, but I'm gonna tell you something about that windy city.
Mm-hmm.
The wind is very serious, and it doesn't play with you. That wind will cut through you because it's off the lake, which even though we're surrounded by water as well, but I think Chicago got us pretty much.
I would have to agree. I was
Yes.
in Chicago for an event for Gospel Fest,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in July. And I remember Albertina Walker was sitting on stage, and she started putting a coat on because it was getting like 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Next thing I know, I was freezing.
Yes. Yes. It gets very, 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 very cold. I
Yeah.
used to work downtown, and one of the things about working downtown is so funny. It was a fashion thing where we all the women had fur coats that worked downtown. I mean, you may not have had any money for it, but you did get a fur coat because it was just that cold.
Wow.
Just that cold.
One of the things that I read about you is that you are the mother of one son, Maurice Sr. Talk about your relationship with your son.
You know what, my son, we have a really, really, really good relationship.
Mhm.
Unfortunately for me, his father and I divorced when he was very young, but we still have a good relationship with his father and everything. But he and I are very close, and we get along in a different, unique kind of way because he was born 2 days after my birthday.
Oh, wow.
So so we share birthdays a little bit, and we talk about our little zodiac sign and all those kind of crazy things together. But he's a good guy. I mean, he's a hard worker. He raised 2 of his youngest children by himself, and so now he's experiencing being the grandfather right now, and I'm the great grandmother. So we have a lot of things to talk about. We have a really super good relationship.
You know, I'm an only child also. And one of my challenges as an only child is sharing. How did you teach your son about sharing?
Well, you know, when you have an only child, my son was surrounded by uncles and my sisters, and so he was a lot like I am. We both like being by ourselves. We're very introverted people, and so I never had that problem with the sharing piece because he's so used to having it all by himself. He never had to share.
Yeah.
He never had to share.
It worked until I got married.
Oh, yeah. That big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably why I'm divorced. When you get
You,
used to having everything your way, and then
it's
all
a
of a
big
sudden,
difference.
what do you mean I can't
Yeah,
go there?
I know. And then as you get older, of course, you pretty much settled in your own way and used to doing things the way you want to do it. So it can be very complicated.
It's challenging. He may not talk to you about it, but I'm sure he had to. Once he got out on his own and started dating and stuff, it's like sharing,
Oh,
share
yeah.
my feelings and oh God, no.
Yeah. I see it. I do see it a little bit. I do see that in him. Yes.
You're also the grandmother of three, and you
Mhm.
mentioned that you're also a great grandmother. What does being a grandmother and a great grandmother mean to you?
When I was a when I first became a grandmother, I mean, it was just kind of like, oh wow, it's a new experience. So I doted on my grandchildren. It's a different kind of an experience with the great grand. Right now, my granddaughter is currently living with me with her son, so I get to enjoy him. I get to experience him. I get to show her some things and try to help direct her in some things, but also stepping back and allowing her to be the mother because I did this a few times.
Mhm,
So being a great grandmother, it's kind of a different place and space for me.
mhm.
Um, it's not the same as the grandchildren. It's um, it's one of those things I have to kind of hold my hands this way so I won't take over. It's different and it's a different level because I'm like, in my family, my mother and father, believe it or not, I'm a senior citizen. My mom and dad are still living.
Wow, that's a
They're
blessing.
still living and they're still at home. And so when you think of them, then you think of me as their child. Then you think of my son, then he has children. And then one of his children had a child. So we got like 5 generations.
That's a
And
blessing.
so I know when I was growing up and I had the experience of my great grandparents, it was a different kind of relationship. We weren't as close as I was with my grandparents.
Mhm.
And so even though I want to be very, very near and dear and close to my great grandson, I wonder sometimes will he really get to know me in a way that's intimate and one that he will remember me,
Right.
at the end of the day. So
So
it's a different place.
what do you think can be changed so that your great grandson can have that relationship with you?
Well, one of the things that I had already purposed in my mind that I will try to be very involved
Mhm.
in his life and, be able to really take him to church with me and do some things like that to try to help my granddaughter out because she's young and got a great father. The little baby father is fantastic. He's really involved in the child's life.
Mhm.
And so I think that just really being there, being available, being accessible to do whatever it is that I can do
Mhm.
for him. Yeah. So he'll remember me and we get to do some things together.
What's some of the favorite things your great grandson likes doing?
Well, he's only 2 weeks old.
Oh, only 2 weeks old?
He's only 2 weeks old.
Oh, okay. So he's a
He's a
baby, baby.
baby.
Okay, so you're at the beginning of the journey.
I'm in the beginning of this next phase, this next chapter in my life. Yes. And so
Wow.
I'm kind of stepping back and watching my son um, in this moment because his youngest children mother is deceased. So he raised my two youngest grandchildren as a single parent.
Mhm.
So, just watching him doting and, at first he was like, oh, he wasn't really ready to be called a grandfather. But now he's beginning to come around the mountain and he's accepting it. So I just step back, watch him interact with his grandchild.
Wow. So as your great grandson gets older, what are you gonna have him call you?
My grandchildren call me Nana. I said, just put a GR on there and have them call me Grana. Make it simple.
Grandma,
You don't have to
okay.
go great grandmama and all that kind of stuff. Just say grandma.
Wow. Now, as I was doing research about you, I
Oh,
pulled up the Psychology Today website. They
okay.
say you are a counselor working with people dealing with mental health disorders, substance
Yes.
abuse, and domestic violence.
Yes.
Why did you decide to become a counselor?
Because as a minister, my pastor used to always introduce families to me, or couples or individuals who was going through some things, and he would say, "Okay, Pearl, I want you to go in there and I want you to work with them." And so after doing that for so many people, and they're sharing their problems and they're sharing things that's going on, I realized I can hold their hand and I can pray for them, but they needed something more than
Right.
just me holding their hands and praying for them. And I did not feel equipped at that time to give them what they needed. So the Lord just really pressed upon my heart, it's time for you to go back to school.
Mm.
And so I didn't know at the time what to go to school, but he brought to my mind how all these people are constantly coming to me, and people do. Even people that my pastor would not ask me. I'm always the one that people used to come to and want to talk to me about their problems. And I just felt like I needed some tools, some skills.
Mm.
I needed to know what else can I offer them besides the prayer. Even though I believe in prayer now, I believe in the miracle prayer, but first natural, then
And
spiritual. You know what I'm
spiritual.
saying?
Right.
Sometimes you got to meet people where they are before you can give them spiritual things. And so I went back to school so I can learn things about myself, but also learn how to develop relationships with people to help them to be able to open up, trust me enough to talk about whatever it is that they need to talk about so we can collectively work together to try to help them achieve whatever goal they need to achieve.
Within the church world, therapy and counseling sometimes is considered taboo because we're
Mhm.
supposed to just trust and believe God. Marvin Winans one of his songs, he wrote the line, "Sometimes a human touch is what you need."
Mhm.
From what I'm hearing you say, you've kind of learned how to balance those two. How is that balance working for you where you're balancing, you kind of talked a little bit that spiritual side, but also you're balancing that human touch side?
One of the things that I've learned with counseling, you learn, and I don't know if this is really going to answer your question, but you learn how to separate yourself from the situation. You have to learn not to allow yourself to become so entangled and enmeshed in somebody else's
Mm.
situation, but you have to step outside of that, put your feelings, your opinions, your ideas, your thoughts, put it on the shelf because this is not about you. It's
Mm.
really about that person in the moment. And I've learned in this experience that to look at people and try to understand them for who they are, not for who I would want them to be
Right.
or for who I expect them to be, but to try and learn to see people for who they are. And regardless of whatever they're going through in their life, whether it agrees with me or it doesn't agree with me, it's their experience, it's where they are in that moment. So I try to tap into those kinds of things to see if I can read them, to see what's really going on with them.
Mm.
And sometimes I could pick up on that. And then there are times I might miss it a little bit, but I try to listen to people. And as a result of that, I think it has helped me over the years to develop relationships.
A lot of times, the relationship, as you state, kind of allows people to open up. Even in ministry, I have a saying that ministry starts after amen, after the
Hmm.
service, and that's really when ministry starts. So, kind of what I'm hearing you saying, when you develop relationships, that's a part of your ministry. The counseling becomes a part of your ministry.
Yeah. I heard someone say many years ago, and this stuck with me. They said, people don't care what you know till they know you care.
Right.
And it's so true because, I could get up in there and tell them about, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for X amount of years. And this is my theoretical approach to counseling or whatever the situation is, or even as a minister and stuff like this. But if I don't show any signs that I'm concerned about you as a person and that I'm interested in knowing you and what's happening with you in your world. They don't care about anything I have to say. They don't care. They don't care nothing about that. They want to know you care about them.
One of the other things that I admired about you is that you work with women in domestic abuse situations. What are some of the common issues you find challenging for women in those kind of situations?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Sometimes I think part of it is shame and just blaming themselves,
Mhm.
um, not being able to forgive themselves in some cases, um, for not wanting to make the necessary changes that they need to make, and sometimes trying to convince yourself that it's okay when you're going through a particular situation that's not good, but you're trying to convince yourself that it's going to get better, you know, or maybe if I change and I do this, that, and the other. So trying to help people to heal in that process and to know that it's okay, that no is a very powerful word, that you can say that and be okay with that. It's okay to walk away from. You don't have to allow some of the things that you may have had to endure or some of the things that you may have experienced. You don't have to let that define you as you move forward in your life. And a lot of women, they struggle with um, trying to see a future for themselves when they've been locked into a situation for so long and they've been so accustomed to a certain way of being treated and
Mhm.
not believing that they could be treated better. So it's a restructuring of thinking that you have to do with them to help them to see something bigger and better than themselves.
The other thing that I read about you, you also help people deal with grief and loss. Um, we've gone through the past few years with COVID and different things. Dealing with grief and loss is hard, unexpectedly. What are some of your recommendations to people to help them deal with grief?
Well, I've been working at OH Funeral Home for over 20 years.
Hmm.
And I've worked with families, and you work with all kind of families because there are a lot of families that come there. They're unchurched, or they have no kind of real connections with God, or they may have been people who used to go to church years ago and hadn't been in years. Some people don't believe in God. There's some that have a totally different belief than I do. So I've had to learn how to be culturally competent, if you will, to be able to deal with certain people. But one of the things I try to do, if I don't know them, most families I service, I don't know them personally.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of times I don't really know what their faith is. So I almost ask for permission to share my faith because I don't want to offend
Right.
someone, because I work in a funeral home. So it's not really about me, even though we're faith based, but I try to find out things about them. If they do have a faith, if they do believe in God or something like that, they give me a license to kind of say some things from my faith to them.
Hmm.
But there are other people that it's just trying to help them to see something bigger than themselves and realize that, life is short, life is real, death is real. And there are times in our experiences when we may go through some things in life that is bigger than ourselves. And
Right.
who would you turn to, or who do you go to? So I challenge them. I get them to thinking about life in a lot of ways. I try to get people to think about the difference between just merely living and existing. And then I try to turn things around in such a way to help them to find some good in the whole process of realizing that we can celebrate their loved one by remembering their story and just making it something like that. Like for an example, I like to use Gladys Knight song. The one she did. I've had my share of life's ups and downs. Fate has been kind, and the downs have been few. And I use that sometime, and people they respond, oh yeah, and so I would play this thing with them. I would work with the audience and I would say things like, oh, yeah, that was a jam, wasn't it? Different things like that. But it gives me an opportunity to kind of flip the script around a little bit to take the sadness away and to talk about how we're all writing stories. And so we have a wonderful moment to consider what we want our stories to be. And sometimes when I turn it around like that, it kind of helps families to see a different perspective versus feeling, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible, or to even feel like I'm going to come in there and start preaching hell and brimstone and fire to them while they're grieving, because there's a lot of people that do not go to church, and that's what they're thinking. They don't want to come to the funeral home because they think the preacher is going to say, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. So you try to bring something different to them.
Wow, you have a balancing act that's out of this world. Between the ministry, working at a funeral home, being a great grandmother.
I think God is really funny. I really do, because by nature, I'm really a very shy person. I really am. If it were left up to me, you probably would never really have gotten to know me if Greg didn't put me out there. But God says, look, I got to give you things to do. And he trusts me with a lot of different things. And so as a result of that, he's the one that's pushing me out here. It's not me, trust me. It's not me at all. It's nothing but the Lord. So I thank God for it. I do. I thank him for the gifts. I thank him for the privilege. I thank him for the platforms that he give me, the opportunities that he give me, because he trusts me. And that's what I told Greg. I said, he given it to me to do because he trusts me. And I just do what I have to do in his name.
So here's another random question. What is a quirky or unusual fear that you have?
Oh my goodness. Probably have several. But one, as a minister, I used to have this nightmare all the time. I would get up and go to church like I normally do. And of course, I'm not on to preach. So I don't have a manuscript or nothing with me. I'm just going to church thinking I'm just going to be singing with the praise team. And all of a sudden the pastor don't show up. Nobody show up. And then they ask me to get up there and do the message. That is scary. Oh my goodness. That's kind of a scary thing to me. And another scary thing is with the singing. Thinking that getting nervous when I'm invited to like a real big event. And I know we all get anxiety, but I think sometimes I might double up on the anxiety a little bit. But once I close my eyes and shut you out, I'm not thinking about you no more. I promise you.
What is that? They say, look in the audience, look at everybody, think that they naked.
Now, I haven't heard that one. Oh, man. But yeah, so it's things like that. You want to do well whenever you get up. It's not about, trying to impress anybody. I mean, I'm beyond that. But wanting to do well whenever you get up to honor God, first of all. But then you want to make sure when you're honoring God, you want to make sure you're doing what you got to do.
I think we all have that fear. Can I remember the words? Can I remember the parts?
And I'm at this age now where it's almost like I'm going to need a little piece of paper or something, because I don't remember things like I used to.
I break my phone.
I get the verses all mixed up, but I keep going. I keep going.
Use my phone in a minute to have words.
I know, isn't it?
They're like, singers shouldn't have words on their phone.
They need to put a special little TV thing up in front for the praise team, so we have our own words, because it's just, we have our little cheat sheets and everything.
I was at CeCe Winans concert, and she was doing all these songs, and I'm like, how is she remembering all these words?
Oh my gosh.
She got a teleprompter.
She's smart. I would need that.
Especially some of these praise and worship songs, like, oh my God.
Yes.
Trying to remember the words and all the parts and all. Oof.
Yes, it's so different than it was back in the day. I call myself a bootleg musician. Now, I remember hymns, in my opinion, are simple to play.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of these musicians nowadays, they can't play a hymn. But they could play all this other music out there, and I can't play the other music. It's amazing to me. But a hymn is the simplest thing you could play, and they cannot play a hymn.
Because it's too simple, or they
I
can't
think
go
it's
on
too
YouTube and
simple.
find it or learn how to play it.
I think it's too simple, and they want to play all these extraordinary chords and stuff, and it really doesn't require it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's really amazing to me that musicians, as gifted as a lot of these guys are, they can't play hymns.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of debates about young musicians not playing hymns and things
Mhm.
like that. But
Mhm.
I think it's important that our generation make sure that they know the hymns and familiar with the hymns.
Yes.
There was a young man at my church one time. He was one of our praise and worship leaders, and Ty Scott had did a project of all hymns, and I gave it to him. I
Hmm.
gave him a hymn book also. And he came back to me and said, Uncle Carl, because of what you did for me, I fell in love with hymns.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that our generation, even though they may not want to play them, but we still have to sing those songs and give them an opportunity to learn. And they may embellish them a little bit more, but
Hmm.
we still have to be in a position where we can allow them the opportunity to learn.
I think so too. I value hymns. As a matter of fact, I still sing hymns today.
It's needed, especially,
Mhm.
I'm watching young people now. I was a young lady at a service. She's probably half my age, but she did, I want to say, Great is Thy Faithfulness on one of the hymns and did
Yeah.
all four verses. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, I don't even know all those verses.
Yeah. It's amazing. I work at the funeral home, and most singers will sing "His Eyes on the Sparrow." That's one of the typical songs that they sing, but they will only sing one verse, just one verse. And I'm sitting there, at least two. I'm saying to myself, "Can you give us two?" But they only sing that one verse, and they keep repeating the same verse over and over again, and it tells such a wonderful story. Those hymns tell stories.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
But some of them verses, trying to remember all 4 or 5 verses. If I don't have a hymn book, I'm hit.
Oh yeah. No, I don't try to do that anymore.
Give me a hymn
I
book, then I
carry the
can do
hymn
it.
book. Yeah, I carry the hymn book.
You have sung with some of Chicago's finest choirs, including the Milton, Brunson's, Thompson Community Singers. Talk
Yes.
about your upbringing singing in Chicago and having an opportunity to be a part of legendary choirs and groups in Chicago.
Well, I grew up in a very small Baptist church where it was very family oriented. It was probably about five families in that church at the time.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I was exposed to, we didn't have, even though it was a small church, we didn't have like maybe just one or two lead singers that did all the songs.
Mhm.
It was so wonderful that in that church, when I was a little girl, we had five, six, seven, eight great singers coming from the junior choir, the youth choir, from the older people's choirs. I mean, we just had a lot of singers, and so one of the things that they would do with little kids when I was growing up, they just put all the little kids in the junior choir, and so any musical gifts you may have, if you're musical at all, you will discover them in the junior choir. You figure out you want to direct a choir, you figure out that you got a voice, you figure out you can play a drum, or you want to play the music, you want to play the instrument, but it seems to develop and evolve when we got in the choir.
Mhm.
So I started out in the junior choir, and then I ended up with our young adult choir and all of that. I was not one of the singers. I could carry a tune, but I was not one of the singers. It wasn't until I got in high school that all of a sudden this voice came out the woodworks. I told somebody, I said, God must have really felt sorry for me and really wanted to give me something to do because I did not have a voice like that. And it was a guy, he just encouraged me at school, heard me playing around. We used to have pianos in the music rooms. And I used to just be plucking on those keys. And my friends used to laugh at me. And I would be trying to hit the notes. And so this guy, he said, I want you to sing in my group. Come and sing in my group. And he was very encouraging to me. He motivated me and he gave me a song to lead. And it just went from there.
Wow.
It went from there. I became one of the, they nominated me as one of the uh, best gospel singers. I wasn't that grand, but that they nominated me as one of them. And from there in Chicago, you have people that go around at churches and they, you have these musicals and stuff. And so when there are people on the program to sing or to or they're singing with a group or whatever, they're like scouting for singers. And so that's how a lot of times I ended up in different groups. I may have been invited to somebody's church to sing a solo, and somebody in the audience is like, look, I got a group. Would you come to our rehearsal and, just kind of get with us? And it would start from things like that. Then another person would say, listen, you have to come sing with Milton Brunson. So I auditioned with them and I sung with them for several years on about 3 or 4 of their albums.
Wow.
When they were real hot, real hot. Back in the day when we did songs like Tina Watson's song, God Cares. You remember that one? He cares. Yeah. So, and then Safe in His Arms, those kind of songs like that. I was there for them when they were doing those kind of songs.
So
And
were you
go
singing with
ahead.
them, Available to You album?
Yes. Yes.
So true
I was
story.
there.
One of my friends and we drove to Chicago for that recording session.
Oh,
And it was during the time the Pistons were killing the Bulls. So
the
we're like the two
Bulls.
Detroiters sitting up because remember, they had to go get, was it a fuse for the church? Because the fuse went out.
Yeah, they had blown
So
out.
it was hot. We all just sitting up there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that song. We really they cut that song a lot because it was a very long song. And I really hate they did that because if everyone could have experienced what we experienced singing that song in its entirety, it was just a beautiful experience all the way around. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was with them during that time. I really enjoyed being a part of that experience. And it was just through those people. I met other people and did different things. But yeah, the Percy Beatty, I don't know if you know him, and
yeah.
Darius
Well,
Brooks. And
if you know the Tommies, you know Percy Beatty, you know
yeah,
Darius Brooks.
yeah, yeah.
Most
So yeah,
definitely.
those guys are real good friends. Yeah. Hmm.
You've also, since moving to Detroit, have been a part of the Whitfield Company. What is that
Yes.
experience like?
You know what? Like I told Greg, being with Whitfield and Company has helped me to meet Thomas Whitfield indirectly.
Mhm.
I never met him face to face. I used to come back and forth to Detroit because my uncle was pastor of Third New Hope Baptist Church, and so I used to come and visit. And when they had the church on Linwood, the company would be in rehearsal there sometimes. So I used to come and visit, would be sitting in the back while they were doing their thing. And I remember one event where the Tommies were invited here to Detroit. And it was a big event where the company, Thomas Whitfield and Company, and Milton Brunson and the Tommies were in the same spot, in the same venue, in the same place. We were all singing. It was a big, huge event here in Detroit. I can't even remember when. It had to be late 80s or something. But that was the first time that I ever knew Milton Bronson and Thomas Whitfield to be in the same room. That's just my experience.
Wow. Thomas Whitfield was not only a great songwriter, great musician, but just a great person.
I believe that.
That's a
I
really good
believe that.
point.
And when I sing with some of those who've been there for a long, long time, they help me make me feel as though Tommy is teaching me how to sing a certain way.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that, especially from those who's been with the group for years and years and years. They allow me to experience his spirit in a lot of ways. And so it's a wonderful experience for me. I really enjoy being with them.
Let's talk about your music. You put out an EP, Sentimental Reflections, featuring 2 songs written by you. What was it like having that dream become a reality of finally becoming a recording artist?
Wow. It was really a surprising kind of a thing for me. I've been trying to do it for years, but I think sometimes my own fear of releasing something that I did. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, I can't do this, or whatever the situation may have been. But it feels good. It took a lot for me to do it. Should have did it a long time ago, but I'm not saying shoulda, woulda, coulda. I think it's timely, and it's when I'm supposed to. So I'm excited about it. I feel really good about it. Um, it's just a little bit of what I have done because I've been writing songs for, oh my gosh, for years and years. And I had the opportunity to work with some really good musicians here. As a matter of fact, it's a young guy named Sean McLean. I worked with him and he allowed me to lay some tracks for a lot of songs that I've written. But I wanted the tracks so at least I could have something tangible
Mhm.
to hold on to so I won't lose anything. But he kind of helped me to just put a lot of my songs on some tracks so that I can have something to go to work with. And then, of course, there's Greg and Demetrius working with me and everything. Demetrius kind of jumped down my throat on these last two songs. They helped me tremendously with those songs, and I really appreciate them. But yeah, he was like, songs out. So he kind of pushed me a little bit.
And I could hear Greg say, Pearl, I want you to do it like this.
Yeah. Greg was wonderful to work with. I really enjoyed working with him. Would love to work with him some more. But yeah, but I really enjoy both of them, really, to tell you the truth, were a lot of fun. And they made my job easier. They really did. They made it easy for me to do what I needed to do.
Greg is great people.
Yes,
Demetrius,
he is. He's a
um,
wonderful guy.
and they're great to work with. I always tease because Greg helped me get my first project out, and I said one of the
No.
reasons I did it because Greg kept calling me, when you gonna bring me some money?
Mm, okay.
And when he got my money, I couldn't get a refund.
Yeah, he's a great guy to work with. I love his spirit. He's very encouraging, and he's just easy to work with.
Talk about the single My Everything.
Well, my everything, that song went through so much, it's just unbelievable. But um it's amazing how sometimes I'm inspired at nighttime laying on my bed. I used to sleep
Mm.
with a tape recorder because I did, because I could be sleeping and dreaming at the same time. And so to not forget that song, I would hit that button, and as terrible as I may sound in the wee hours of the morning, I would sing enough to keep me at least so I won't forget. And so when I get up in the morning, I'd have something to work with. But My Everything, that was a song that um, went through a lot. I mean, that song been through a lot, but it's just sentiments of my heart to the good Lord, just for recognizing that it is in Him that I live, move, and have my being. So
Mm.
He is everything to me. And I just wanted to write a my everything kind of song.
You wrote
I
a
was so,
great song.
oh, thank you. Thank
I
you.
really enjoy it. Right, hearing it is a really good song.
Thank you. Yeah.
What's next for Pearl McCullough?
Well, I have a lot of little gifts, and I'm just working right now to figure out how I can compile all these things that I do in a way that can be a blessing um, to people, because my vocals are not necessarily for just singing, but I do preach and I do minister to families. I do talk to families counseling. So I'm always using my voice for everything. So I'm just trying to right now compile a ministry where all of that stuff can come together in a way and be a blessing to other people. I do have another song I'm working on. And as a matter of fact, it is a done song with another guy. So I've been busy, and all I got to do is just finish up some last minute things. And so I would like to say, give or take in a couple of months, that song might be out as well.
The thing about being a creative, your mind never sleeps.
I know. I know.
I want to do this. I want to do this.
I have a lot of songs that I have yet to put out there, and I just probably need to upgrade them and update them a little bit. But I think I got some really nice songs and let somebody else sing it. I don't really care. That might be a thing to do too.
I worked with a friend of mine and I'm getting her debut single out, and she said, "You know what, Carl? I just want to do this for my legacy," and that
Mhm,
stuck with me
mhm,
because a lot of times when you start doing things, especially after a certain age, it's not about the numbers.
mhm.
It's about legacy. And do you feel that sometimes what you're doing now is about your legacy?
It really is. A lot of times people would say, Pearl, you should have did this a long time ago. And I said, no. I said, no, I'm doing it at the right time because I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm better. And not only that, I know who I am. And so if I had done some things when I was younger, I may not have been as mature as I believe I am now. And
Mm.
my relationship with God is totally different now than it was some years ago. And so I can handle whatever come my way, whatever it
Mm.
is. It's all right with me because the objective to the songs, I want them to be a blessing to anybody that receives. Everybody's not gonna like my song. That's okay. But there are some people that may appreciate them, may appreciate the songs. And I just want to bring something that I'm not hearing too much anymore. They don't sing songs with verses in them anymore, not with a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's different, and it's not to take away from anybody's song because I love all these wonderful songs that come out. But I know, I remember when I was writing songs earlier in the years, I used to put so many verses on them until somebody said, "You know what? You're gonna have to cut that down a little bit." So I mean, but I don't have to have a lot of verses, but I'm trying to tell a story too. So just to do something different like that, but it won't wear nobody out and all that kind of stuff. But just a little bit of me, so people can see the gift that God has given me,
Mm.
and hopes that it would just be a blessing to them. Just listen to it in your car, if that's what you want to do.
I think one thing we as artists have to learn is how to be ourselves.
Yes, and
Because
it's hard
sometimes,
to do sometimes.
because you're hearing all this other music, all these other sounds, but you have to write what God gives you
Yeah.
and not what you've heard on the radio.
Right.
You
And
know,
that becomes a challenge because sometimes I found in my own personal experience, I get a vision of a song and I already know how I want that song to go. But then sometimes when you start working with other people, of course, their creative juices are flowing. And if you're not careful, that song can turn into something that you don't know.
that's
And I've
why.
had that happen to me before too. So I know that I have to be true to the inspiration of what God gives and let that become the song.
Right.
And so that's where I'm at right now in my life. But years ago, I might have just gave in to any and everything somebody gave me. I would say, okay, we could change it like that. If you want to do that, I would have done it. And so,
This
but now
this
I'm
is
at a
this is
place,
how God gave it to me. You can enhance what He gave to me, but
yes,
this is how I heard
it has to go this way, ABC. Yes.
it.
Yes, it has to go that way.
So how can people reach you? How can they get your music, and how can they follow you on social media?
They could reach me on my email, WPM816 at AOL.com. That's a very old, that's
AOL.com.
a very old, yes,
AOL.
AOL. I'm telling you,
Ooh.
I've had that for 100 years, but it works. It
Dollar.
works. So it's WPM816 at AOL.com. So they could get they could get me on that. And then the songs you can get them on a lot of digital platforms. There are Apple, I think um oh I can't think of them right now, but they're out there on different platforms that you can have access to the songs.
And how can they follow you on social media?
Um what is my social media thing? Work with me on that. Work with me
Facebook.
on that. Yes.
Facebook.
Yep.
What's your name
Just
on Facebook?
Pearl McCullough, Pearl Branch McCullough.
Okay, and on Instagram.
I'm not on
Mm-mm.
Instagram.
Facebook is enough.
Yep. For now, yes. I'm working on some things, trust me, but not that's enough right now. Pray for me.
It's okay. At least you on Facebook. Oh,
Oh, that's terrible.
it's okay. There's a lot of
My
social
nephew
media
said,
out there right now.
he said, Auntie, I'm gonna have to help you out.
Yeah, trying to do all,
He said he's
trying
gonna
to do
help me
Facebook,
out.
Instagram, Threads, Snapchat.
Oh my God.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. It really, really is a lot. So he said he's gonna help me out to get me out there a little bit.
Let him do it.
I'm gonna let him do it freely.
He can post for you, all that stuff.
I'm gonna let him do it all. He want to do it. So I'm like, okay, help us with style. You have to excuse me. My little lash. Oh, got him. But anyway,
as we wrap up, speak to someone about the importance of having sentimental reflections.
Oh my gosh. You know, one of the things about having sentimental reflections, it'll take you in a place where you want to be. Because I look at it, sentimental reflections is really just allowing yourself to be in a place in the presence of God, where God is speaking, where you can speak to him and he can speak to you. And there is where you will find the peace that you need, the hope that you need, you know, that safe place. It's a safe place to be. And so when you allow yourself to just be still and know that I am God is what the word of God would say.
Wow.
That's where inspiration comes.
Pearl McCullough, I have enjoyed this conversation with you. We have laughed a lot.
I enjoyed you too. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Do. It's my pleasure. Yes. Look forward to meeting you one day and hearing.
Likewise.
I like to close by saying this. Remember to work like you don't need the money, love like you've never been hurt, and dance like no one's watching you, and go get sentimental reflections from Pearl McCullough. God bless you until we have an opportunity to meet again.
The Carl B. Phillips Show is produced by Carl B. Phillips for Prove Me Productions. For more information about Carl B. Phillips, visit carlbphillips.com. Subscribe to The Carl B. Phillips Show on YouTube or your favorite podcast outlet.